Okay, welcome. My name is Chris Newsome. I'm with RecruitMilitary. Joining me today is my colleague, Carol Hymes. Carol, if you would say hi real quick and maybe just share with the audience a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. My name is Carol. I'm a program outreach coordinator with Recruit Military. I served for 32 years in the Army, recently retired over 2 years ago. I landed my dream job through Recruit Military, utilizing the resources and information that allows us to get out there and prepare for employment opportunities. Glad to be on the team and welcome, Mark.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carol. Okay, so today we want to talk about event preparation. There's a lot of things that we here at Recruit Military do to facilitate the connection between the military community and those corporate entities, those employers, the recruiters that are out there that specifically have military hiring initiatives. And one of the primary ways that we do facilitate that connection is through the events that we host. We do a lot of events. We do them all across the country. I want to say there's about 100 to 120 each and every year that we're going to do. So we do these in major markets. We do these on military installations. We also do virtual hiring events. And one thing that is common throughout those different types of events is just the general best practices. What can one do to be best prepared for the event itself and for the interaction that they're about to have? So in my time here at Recruit Military, I spent a number of years running events. Carol, you're running events now. So can't think of a better subject matter expert than somebody that's on the ground right here, right now, that understands the ebb and flow of these events so that we can orient these men and women towards success, essentially. So with that, let's start with from what you've seen being on the ground, and you've been in a lot of different events now, what do you think the best thing to do prior to the event? So if the event happens on a Thursday, what should one be doing on Wednesday evening to prepare for that for that awesome event that they're about to walk into?
Right, absolutely, Chris. First, to me, the most important thing is to pre-reg for the event. That opens up windows and opportunities, excuse me, so that you can see who's all going to be there. So you want to do your homework. What I call like start looking in, seeing who's going to be there, what organizations, what positions they're looking for to fill, and how you fit in with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. The screen that's sharing right now is actually our full event list. So if you look at this, you'll see we have the calendar mapped out all the way to the end of next year, essentially. So you can register, as Carol just mentioned, pre-registering. It's very, very important, not just to put it on your own radar and to create that calendar invite so it doesn't fall off the radar, but to streamline your access to the event. So when you show up, it's a matter of quickly giving them your name, showing them your QR code, and boom, you're in the event, as opposed to registering on site. Now, if you don't have the capacity to pre-register, that's perfectly fine. Do keep in mind you can do it directly from your phone. It's very, very simple. It doesn't require an app or anything along those lines. So you'll go to recruitmilitary.com, you'll identify as a job seeker, and you'll look at our event list, find the event that fits you, register for that event so that you let us know that you're coming so that we can give you all of these best tips and practices. And you're also letting those corporate entities know that you're going to be there. Those recruiters have access to the list of men and women that are going to be attending the event. So it allows them to kind of get a snapshot at who you might be walking into the event, the same way that you can look at who they are. You can look at the lineup. You can look at all of the organizations that are going to be in attendance. So pre-registration is certainly best practices 101 when it comes to getting ready for the event. So, all right. So, Carol, if we can fast forward a little bit, we're now at the event. We've gone through the registration. What should I have with me? What should I do to be prepared to actually start doing my navigating, my roundtable conversations that I'm going to be having with these organizations? Do I need to have a resume? Do I need to, what kind of attire should one be wearing? Can you run through that real quick for us?
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. So let's start with your attire. I like to start from the beginning and work my way through. So as you go in with your attire, it really depends on what employment opportunity that you're looking to hire or to join. So if you're going to be a mechanic and there's some mechanical positions available, perhaps maybe you wouldn't come in a three-piece suit. You may come in with a little less casual. but
Yeah.
you want to maintain that good tasteful professional appearance. Um, if you were going for an executive position, therefore you probably would change a little bit up and be more of a suit and tie type event for you. So when you're getting there, you definitely you want to make sure you got your list because you did your homework prior to, so you know what positions and where you want to go, what tables or booths you want to go to at first. But I always tell them, go to your say if you picked 5, go to your top 5 heavy hitters that you know that you want, but don't cut yourself short by leaving after that. So should you have your resume? Well, what I've learned is although we're doing a lot of digital things, I learned just on the last hiring event, they're still asking for your resumes. So I challenge you to go ahead and bring that hard copy, that paper copy of your resume, especially if like CIA. They're big on no, we don't scan anything, we don't take any pictures of anything. They ask for so many paper resumes. So it won't hurt you to bring your portfolio that has your resume in there. Have that 30-second elevator pitch ready as soon as you get up to the booth or to the table. Those are things I think as you're getting ready to start off and you've arrived, you're in there, you're making your way around throughout the room. To me, I think it's important to have all of those things.
Yeah, that's those are a couple really great points. So one, dress for the role you're going for. All right. And that doesn't mean, depending on the lax environment, if it's a remote work opportunity, you never want to show up in shorts and a t-shirt. Generally speaking, lead with your best foot forward. Some level of business casual is typically acceptable. You do not always need to be rocking a suit or a pantsuit, but just keep in mind the role that you're going for and the impression that you're trying to make on that recruiter. You only get one first impression. So you do not need to be wearing a tuxedo dressed to the nines per se, but dress for that role that you're going for, and you'll generally aesthetically be set up for success. You also mentioned creating a short list. That's a very tactical and strategic approach to this because you identify your champion organizations that you really want to work for. But part of that, if we rewind to what Carol said, is you've done your homework, you understand what that short list is, understand that within the effort of doing your homework, make sure you're the right fit for that role. Make sure that your resume is tailored for that role. And to that end, if you've had enough advance lead time looking into this event. Now, if you can only register the day before because you only found out about it the day before, we understand. You can kind of learn on the fly as you're at the event. But we do start advocating for these events typically about 60 days in advance. And as I showed earlier, the schedule all the way through December of next year is already completed. So you know what events are going to be held when and where typically. Once you register for those events, we will nudge you and inform you as to the organizations that are attending so that you can do a little bit of that homework. Make sure that that resume is crafted for the organization and the opportunity so that when you do show up, you are very prepared for it. And in fact, ideally, if you can, apply to any of the positions that are relevant to you prior to going to the event. And I'll tell you why that's important because you may be asking, why would I go to the event? I've already applied. I'm in their system. They'll reach back out. Yes and no. All right. You have to understand that not every organization operates the same way. It is ideal to apply because that has to happen at some point. Regardless, you must have a digital fingerprint. You will have to go through the application process at some point. So if you know that's a role that you're a fit for, apply to that role, craft your resume for that role so that when you're on site and you're talking to a recruiter, you're having an elevated conversation. You have to keep in mind there are dozens and dozens of organizations, and in some cases, hundreds of job seekers that are coming through the same funnel that you are. So it's the difference between having kind of that cookie cutter conversation. Here's the organization, here's the role, here's how you apply. You can get ahead of most of that, do that on the front end. And then when you're in front of that recruiter, have an elevated conversation. Now you can say, I've applied to this role. I'm very interested in learning more about the corporate culture. Can we talk a little bit more about what I can expect moving forward? What is the typical turnaround time on getting a response from the time that I submit an application? You're having a different level conversation at that point. So preparation is key, dressing to impress. You also mentioned the 30-second elevator pitch. That all ties into this first impression. if you can, and we have materials on recruitmilitary.com that you can go to that can help you practice how to craft your 30-second elevator pitch. It's essentially, the concept is you're in an elevator with somebody going from floor to floor. You have about 30 seconds to make that impression and to break the ice with a stranger. So understand how to articulate who you are and what you're looking for moving forward, so that you can, it's almost like speed dating. You have a very minimal amount of time to stand out to that organization. They don't need your entire backstory. They don't need to know everything that you did in that 30-second elevator pitch, but just very high level. Here's who I am. Here's what I did when I served. Here's what I'm looking to do moving forward. Does this sound like something that you're currently recruiting for? Again, that's, you've taken that time to really articulate and champion for yourself, while also adhering to those other best practices. You've applied to the role, you're dressed to impress. So, great feedback, Carol. Okay, so we're at the event. How can we, what would you say would prepare these men and women for the diverse array of opportunities? You mentioned finding your champion organizations. Okay, if there's five, but let's say that's 5 out of 50
Right.
organizations. You
Mhm.
talk to those five. What about the other 45? What would you recommend in terms of time spent engaging with those organizations?
So I often tell everyone, every candidate that comes in, go to each booth. Hit your heavy hitters at the front because you never know what's behind the scene. You know, one company may be the waste management company, and you may say, "Well, I don't want to have anything to do with waste." But behind the scenes, they have HR, they have computer analysts, they have IT personnel, they have cyber personnel. So you still have a great v- variety of opportunities just by stopping there and finding out what opportunities they have to present at that time.
Great feedback. Essentially, they don't know you. You don't know them. You've
Hmm.
never had a conversation. What we see, and Carol, I know you've seen this at this point, is we encounter a lot of job seekers that will walk in, they'll talk to those top five, whatever their A+ organizations are, then they leave. We know that's wrong. You've just kind of wasted your time. What happens if it doesn't pan out with those five organizations? We see people that gravitate towards a brand because they really like that brand and they think that's the golden ticket in terms of opportunity. But again, it may not work out. And again, when it comes to those other organizations, you don't know enough necessarily, unless you've done that homework and you know and understand all of the opportunities that they're offering, and you know that's not a fit for you. That's about
Hmm.
the only scenario where you should walk past them and not have a conversation. You see a brand and you may think, I know exactly what they do. I'll give a great example. McDonald's has attended our events before. They were frequent flyers, and what would happen is a lot of job seekers would walk past that table thinking that the opportunities were limited to flipping burgers, cooking fries, very typical what you see at the store when you go there to order food, when in reality, they're looking to fill corporate roles as well. These recruiters understand that you, as a military candidate or as a spouse, are overqualified for an entry level position. They do not come to our system, into our environment, offering entry level positions in many cases. Now, if that's an opportunity that you want to take advantage of because you're going through school, you're using your GI Bill, and you're looking for something just to have a little bit of extra income, an entry level position may be a fit for you, but that's your decision to make. But by and large, these organizations are bringing a diverse array of opportunities. To go back to the McDonald's example, they need web developers, they need finance people, they need human resources. There's a lot of different roles. All of these companies have many moving parts and many different departments. So please challenge yourself to not walk past an organization because you think you understand what they're there to hire for. You'll typically be very pleasantly surprised. Okay, so we've prepared for the event. We've shown up at the event. We know how to lead with our best foot forward. One thing I do want to just kind of not harp on, but revisit is the resume. So, Recruit Military, as Carol mentioned, a lot of what we do is digital. So much happens in the digital atmosphere, if you will. Your application, it's digital. Your professional profile, it's digital. So you're always going to have a need for that, but there are many cases where a hard copy resume is still going to be vital. Primarily government entities. Carol, you mentioned the CIA, think FBI, NSA, all of these entities, many of those recruiters are still operating in a tangible sort of way. They need a physical resume to review. Your application will still be digital, but their processes are just different. So instead of feeling as though you need to come prepared to an event with dozens of resumes, I would say if you have 3 to 5 resumes, hard copy, that will be more than enough. But otherwise, most of your resume can be shared digitally. When you come into the event, you're going to be given a QR code on your smartphone. We all have our smartphones now. If you don't have one, a QR code will be printed for you. And essentially, this is tied to your registration. And ideally, your registration is tied to your professional profile, where you're telling these organizations who you are, what you've done, what you're looking to do moving forward. So, by a simple scan of a QR code on your phone, these recruiters now have direct access to your professional profile and ideally your resume, assuming you have attached your resume to your profile. So please keep that in mind. It is very streamlined. It is digital in many aspects, but it is best practices to consider still bringing at least a handful of hard copy resumes. And please print these out ahead of time. We do not typically have printing facilities at our disposal on site. Okay, so I went in reverse on that one, and we're fast forwarding now. We're at the event. We're having awesome conversations. Um, we've spent the appropriate amount of time networking and talking with these organizations. What would you recommend somebody do once they're either home for the day or the evening in terms of, what's next? I met with a lot of great people, got a couple business cards. The day is done. What happens next, Carol?
So I normally recommend all of them to go back and close the loop. Reach out to your contacts that you met today. Send them a 1-2 sentence email, just telling them thank you for the opportunity. Staying connected with those individuals, I think, is very important. Also, you want to go back in, look at your profile. I always tell them go back and relook at your profile, make sure that everything is up to date on your profile. That if you needed to excuse me, if you needed to tailor anything, you still take that opportunity to go ahead and tailor, fix all your your documents, so that you're prepared when you get that magical phone call for your
Great
next
advice.
step.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you may go into the event with um, certainly your profile and your resume crafted to well represent yourself, but things may change once you're actually having those conversations. You may need to adjust your profile ever so slightly. You're going to need to adjust that resume. When and where you can apply to positions on the front end, and be truly prepared to walk into that event, that's a great thing. But we know that that's not always realistic for everybody, nor do you know all of the opportunities that are going to be available until you get on site and you talk to those folks. So when you talk to those folks on site, you're going to be presented with a handful of additional opportunities, ideally, that you should be applying for. They're going to encourage you to apply to these positions. They're going to say, you sound like a perfect fit for this particular role. Please follow this path, follow this URL. Here's my card, here's my information, apply to this position. So you're going to do that application post event. Follow up is a very important aspect of an event. You want to make sure that you're following up with these recruiters to the best of your ability. Not everybody's going to give you the business card. Not everybody is going to give you guidance beyond pushing you towards that next step, which is the application. So what I would say is that you apply to those roles as you're talking to these organizations, make note of who you're talking to. I talked to Stacy with BNSF. I talked to Bob with Wells Fargo. Whomever it might be, understand who they are so that you can at least follow up with them via LinkedIn. If they did not give you a business card, follow up with them on LinkedIn so that you can stay on their radar. You become more than a candidate at that point. You've been a part of their experience at that event. You've stood out for all the right reasons. You've followed that guidance. You've submitted your resume. You've submitted your application. Make sure you stand out. Reach out to them, connect with them, say it was a pleasure to meet you at that career fair. I've applied to this position as we spoke about, and I would love to learn more. Again, keep it a little bit open ended so you can challenge them to give you that response so that you can stay on their radar. So, preparation, relatively simple. Understand the organizations that are going to be there, dress to impress, have a handful of resumes ready to hand out in those hard copy instances when, it's typically a government employer that needs that hard copy. Understand your 30-second elevator pitch. Understand how to navigate that room. Don't just talk to those 5 organizations. We see some that want to go directly for the government contractors, and that's all well and good. But keep in mind, not everybody qualifies for each and every one of these organizations and the positions that they're looking for. You may have to, I don't want to say reclass, but you may have to add credentials to your background, to your resume in order to be more of an applicable candidate. If they require certain backgrounds, certifications, educations that you don't currently possess, understand how to move forward and pursue those. Because again, just because you're not the perfect fit today doesn't mean that after 6 months and you go through that credentialing process, you're not the perfect fit. Some of these organizations, their hiring life cycle might take weeks or months. So that buys you a little bit of time. So again, understand the ins and outs and truly ask yourself, how dedicated am I to this particular role and pursuing all that I need to be the best candidate for that role. So we've had great conversations on site. We understand following up. What I will say is to kind of close this out and close the loop on the conversation and thought here is understand the value of marrying all these things into one. It's not just showing up. That doesn't get you the job. It's not just your attire. That doesn't get you the job. The resume, despite a lot of common myths, does not get you the job. Your resume is the door opener for you. It'll lead to the next conversation. Understand that it's a merging of all of these things kind of working in unison and leveraging assets and resources like what we have to offer here at Recruit Military. We have the means to guide you through crafting that 30-second elevator pitch. If you don't have a resume yet, we have the means to help you generate a resume based on your professional profile. Understand all of the different mechanisms that are at your fingertips, and it's not overwhelming. Most of it can simply be found in recruitmilitary.com or our resource center. Anything that you would need to be successful. Use those things, understand the value of that digital application, as well as the value of being in person and being able to make eye contact and shaking a hand. And if you do that, you're going to be successful. This is a numbers game. Keep in mind, these employers are specifically attending these events because they have dedicated military hiring initiatives. You already have a leg up. They understand your value. They understand that you are a different candidate than the run-of-the-mill non-veteran counterpart that you may have out there on the street. So these are special events that are being created just for you. Leverage them to the best of your ability and lean on us to whatever extent that you need to. We're here. You're going to find Carol at the events. You're going to bump into me at the events. You're going to run into our colleagues. We are there to help you. So please never hesitate to come up and engage us and just lean on us for any of that support or best practices guidance that you might need. So with that, Ms. Hymes, Sergeant Major Hymes, any parting words before we end the session today?
Chris, you hit it all on the head. Perfect. Perfectly said. Definitely, we are here to assist and help you. It may appear to be overwhelming at first, but just take the time and make the time so that you can take care of yourself as you prepare to transition out and look for that next opportunity in employment.
Absolutely. Great guidance, great advice. These employers are here for you. Most of them are prior service themselves as well, so they understand your journey. They've gone through it as well. So until next time, we wish all of you the absolute best. RecruitMilitary.com. Anything we can do to support you, that's what we're here for. Thank you, Carol.
Thanks.